There was a business executive who was deep in debt and could see no way out. Creditors were closing in on him. Suppliers were demanding payment. He sat on the park bench, head in hands, wondering if anything could save his company from bankruptcy. Suddenly, an old man appeared before him. "I can see that something is troubling you," he said. After listening to the executive's woes, the old man said, "I believe I can help you." He asked the man his name, wrote out a check, and pushed it into his hand, saying, "Take this money. Meet me here exactly 1 year from today, and you can pay me back at that time." Then he turned and disappeared as quickly as he had come. The business executive saw in his hand a check for $500,000, signed by John D. Rockefeller, then one of the richest men in the world. "I can erase my money worries in an instant," he realized. But instead, the executive decided to put the uncashed check in his safe. Just knowing it was there might give him the strength to work out a way to save his business, he thought. With renewed optimism, he negotiated better deals and extended terms of payment. He closed several big sales. Within a few months, he was out of debt and making money once again. Exactly 1 year later, he returned to the park with the uncashed check. At the agreed-upon time, the old man appeared. But just as the executive was about to hand back the check and share his success story, a nurse came running up and grabbed the old man. "I'm so glad I caught him," she cried. "I hope he hasn't been bothering you. He's always escaping from the rest home and telling people he's John D. Rockefeller." And she led the old man away by the arm. The astonished executive just stood there, stunned. All year long he'd been wheeling and dealing, buying and selling, convinced he had $500,000 behind him. Suddenly, he realized that it wasn't the money, real or imagined, that had turned his life around. It was his newfound self-confidence that gave him the power to achieve anything he went after. He stood there for a long time after the nurse had taken the old man away, not moving, just staring at the empty space where something important had just shifted inside him. The park suddenly felt different, like it was no longer just a place where people came to sit, but a place where decisions quietly changed the direction of lives. He reached into his pocket out of habit, as if the check might still be there, and then stopped himself. A small smile formed on his face, not because of what he had lost, but because of what he now understood. For a long time, he had believed that his problem was money. But standing there, he realized something uncomfortable. Money had never been the real issue. It was how he had been thinking while trying to save his business. He had spent months before that day reacting to everything. Fear had been making his decisions for him. Fear of creditors. Fear of failure. Fear of what people would say if he finally collapsed. And fear, he realized now, had a way of making people smaller than their actual situation. He walked slowly back through the park, remembering the version of himself that had sat on that bench a year ago. That man had been ready to give up, not because the situation was impossible, but because he no longer believed he had influence over it. That belief had been the real debt. When he returned to his office the next morning, nothing had changed on paper. The debts were still there. The pressure was still real. But something in him had changed, and that became the starting point of everything else. He began to notice how differently people responded when he spoke with calm certainty instead of panic. He realized that most negotiations were not decided by numbers alone, but by conviction. When he believed he had options, other people began to see options too. When he spoke like someone who was already rebuilding, people stopped treating him like someone who was collapsing. Even his team changed. They stopped moving like employees waiting for instructions and started moving like people solving a shared problem. It wasn't instant. There were still setbacks, deals that fell through, days when progress felt invisible, nights when the old fear tried to return. But each time he remembered the check. Not the money itself, but what it represented in his mind. A reminder that he was allowed to think bigger than his current situation. Slowly, discipline replaced panic. Structure replaced chaos. Strategy replaced survival thinking. And something else began to grow quietly underneath all of it. Self-respect. The kind that comes from showing up even when nothing feels certain. Over time, the business stopped bleeding. Then it stopped struggling. Then it started to breathe again. But the most important change was not in the company. It was in him. He no longer waited for perfect conditions before making decisions. He stopped needing guarantees before taking action. He stopped asking, "What if this fails?" and started asking, "What if this works?" And that shift changed everything. Because he realized that most people don't fail from lack of opportunity. They fail from the moment they stop believing they are allowed to try boldly. Now, standing in the same park where it had all begun, he finally understood the full truth of what had happened. The old man had not given him money. He had given him permission. Permission to think differently, to act differently, to carry himself like someone who still had a future worth fighting for. And in the end, that was what had saved him. Not a signature, not a check, not luck. He stood there in the park a little longer than he intended, as if waiting for something else to confirm what had already changed inside him. The city kept moving around him. People walking past. Cars in the distance. Life continuing without noticing that something small but important had just shifted in one man's thinking. He finally turned and began walking back toward his office, but even his steps felt different now. Not faster, not slower, just more deliberate. On the way, he kept replaying the past year, not as a story of luck, but as a story of choices he hadn't fully understood at the time. He remembered the first week after receiving the check, how he had sat alone in his office, staring at it for hours, trying to decide whether it was real or not. But now he understood that question had never mattered. What mattered was what he chose to do because of it. Because from that moment, he stopped identifying himself as someone trapped. He started seeing himself as someone temporarily under pressure, but still in control of direction. That distinction changed everything. When he reached his office that day, he paused before entering. He noticed something he had missed for months before, the energy of the place. Before, it had felt heavy, like everyone was waiting for bad news. Now it felt uncertain but active. People were moving, talking, planning, not because the situation had become easy, but because the mindset in the room had changed. One of his senior staff approached him cautiously. "We have another supplier asking for payment," the man said. There was a time this sentence would have triggered stress immediately, but now he simply nodded. "Schedule a meeting," he replied. "We will restructure the terms, not avoid the conversation." The staff member hesitated, then nodded and left. And in that small moment, he realized something important again. Leadership is not about having all the answers. It is about staying steady while finding them. As the weeks passed, he began to notice a pattern. Every time he acted with clarity instead of fear, outcomes improved. Not always immediately, not always dramatically, but consistently. And consistency, he realized, was more powerful than intensity. One afternoon, he sat with his finance manager going through the numbers. The gap was still there. The pressure was still real. But it was no longer overwhelming. "We are not out of danger yet," the manager said honestly. He leaned back slightly, looking at the figures without emotion. "I know," he replied, "but we are no longer lost." That was the difference now. At one point, the manager asked him something that stayed with him. "What changed you? You don't react the same way anymore." He paused before answering because the truth wasn't simple. At first, he wanted to say it was strategy or experience or pressure forcing growth. But none of those were fully correct. So he said something more honest. I stopped waiting to feel ready before I acted like I could handle things. The manager didn't respond immediately, but he nodded slowly, as if something had clicked. Outside the office, the business world kept testing him. There were still negotiations that almost fell apart. Still moments where one wrong decision could have reversed months of progress. But now, even in uncertainty, he had learned how to stay engaged instead of collapsing inward. And that was what most people never learn. Not how to avoid pressure, but how to function inside it. One evening, long after most people had left the office, he stayed behind alone. The building was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes thoughts louder. He looked around the room that had once felt like it was closing in on him, and now felt like a place he had rebuilt from the inside out. And he thought about something deeper. He thought about how many people were sitting in their own versions of that same park bench moment, waiting for something external to change before they changed themselves, waiting for money, waiting for approval, waiting for timing, waiting for certainty. But certainty, he realized, was never something you receive. It is something you create through repeated action in uncertain conditions. He opened his notebook and wrote something down, not as a business plan, but as a reminder to himself. He wrote, I do not need perfect conditions to move forward. I only need direction and discipline. He closed the notebook and sat quietly for a moment. And for the first time in a long time, he felt something that was not excitement, not pressure, not even relief. He felt grounded. Months later, the business had grown again, not explosively, but steadily. The kind of growth that lasts because it is built carefully. Old debts had been cleared gradually. New partnerships had formed. The company that once felt like it was hanging by a thread now had structure again. But he never described it as a comeback. Because in his mind, he had not returned to who he was before. He had become someone different entirely. One day, while speaking at a small business gathering, someone asked him what advice he would give to people struggling financially or professionally. He thought for a moment before answering, choosing his words carefully. I won't tell you to think positive, he said, and I won't tell you everything will magically work out. He paused, letting the room settle. But I will tell you this. Your life changes the moment you stop waiting for confidence and start building it through action. He continued, you don't need certainty to begin. You need willingness. And once you start acting consistently, even when things are unclear, your mind begins to follow your actions. That is what happened to me. Nothing outside changed first. I changed first. After the session, someone asked him privately if the story about the check was real. He smiled, not rushing to answer. Then he said something simple. Real or not, it worked only because I chose to believe in what it made me become. And that was the final truth he had learned. That sometimes life does not change you by removing your problems. It changes you by forcing you to see yourself differently inside them. Not as someone waiting to be saved, but as someone capable of responding, rebuilding, and rising step by step. And once that identity is formed, even without a check, even without permission, even without certainty, you no longer wait for life to change. You begin to change it yourself.